There was a civil war brewing in Philadelphia all season long pertaining to Sam Bradford. And it all came to a climax on Tuesday. Stevie Wonder signs a 2-year, $36 million deal, $26 million guaranteed. He's back, whether you like it or not. Mike Owens is here. Jeremy Burton is here as well. I'm Adrian Fedke. Actually, we have another guy making an appearance today, and his name's Pug Peterson.
Oh, let's bring him on. He's got something to say about the Bradford signing. You got anything to say? He's beyond words excited to have Stevie Wonder back. But yeah, Pug Peterson had to say hi, make his appearance. So
he's snorting. He's saying,
"Go Eagles!" Good job, Howie and Sammy.
Oh man. So yeah, let's get right into it. What do you guys think of the deal?
Yeah, well, I mean, all along I wanted the Eagles to get Bradford for a 2-year deal. So in that sense, it's good for the Eagles because it's a 2-year deal. They're not locked up to him long term now, and with this 2-year deal, it really allows them some wiggle room where they can go in the draft and they can draft some guys this year and next year to groom them to be hopefully the next franchise quarterback, after Bradford. But, the thing that's a little bit concerning here with the Bradford deal is the way that it's set up because, Bradford, he kind of made out on this deal a little bit because I'm sure that he wanted a longer-term deal, but instead, by getting a shorter-term deal, he was able to really jack up that guaranteed money. So, in total, he's going to end up getting $26 million guaranteed, and $22 of that million is going to be guaranteed in the first year. So immediately, he's going to be getting $22 million guaranteed no matter what happens, and the cap hit, for 2016 will be $12.5 million, but then it skyrockets to $23.5 million in 2017. And if the Eagles decide to cut him in 2017, then they're going to end up taking a cap hit of $9.5 million. So, the deal, when you look at the numbers, it's really not the best deal, but with the situation that we were in, able to get him for 2 years, it was kind of the best case, scenario that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, Sam was the best option available. He's already been here. He's already got a rapport with, I know Jordan Matthews and Zach Ertz were excited to have him back. They're posting their excitement on Twitter. And, Sammy put together a season last year in just 14 games. He threw for over 3,700 yards. It actually ranks 4th all-time amongst individual Eagles quarterback seasons, behind McNabb twice and I think Sonny Jurgensen 1 year. And he put together a decent stretch in the second half. And bar none, he is, I think, the best option available because Carson Wentz and Jared Goff will probably be gone by the time we're at 13. Like Mike said, it gives us flexibility to address all our other needs in free agency and not necessarily have to take a quarterback in the first round. We have options to address the offensive line, maybe trade back, get a second-round pick. So it provides the Eagles with a lot of flexibility, especially this year in the cap hit being so minimal this coming year in 2016. But as Mike pointed out, kind of gets complicated in 2017. But at least we control him for 2016 and 2017, regardless of what we do with him in 2017, whether we cut him or trade him. There's all different kinds of scenarios, but at least we lock down a starting quarterback. It's the most important position on the field, and we have control for the next 2 years with Sam. So I think it was a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, his average salary per season is 14th in the NFL, according to overthecap.com. He's tied with Tony Romo. In my end-of-the-year quarterback rankings, I had him ranked 16th. So it's about spot on in terms of the money there. I'm not pro-Bradford, and I'm also not anti-Bradford. I'm stuck right in the middle there. And, he's a guy that can help you win games as long as you have a dominant defense. And, bringing Jim Schwartz in here, obviously the Eagles have turned to wanting to be dominant on the defensive side of the ball. And we've seen teams that have been dominant, get after the quarterback, rush the quarterback, bringing the heat. Those are the teams that can win. And we just saw the Broncos win a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was a shell of himself this season. I mean, that's just an understatement there. Eli Manning won a Super Bowl with the Giants twice because of a great defensive line. We've seen Mark Sanchez get to some AFC championship games with a great Jets defense. So, with an average quarterback like Sam Bradford, if this defense can take the next step, become like a top 10, top 5 unit in the NFL, then this deal is great.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Obviously, the way we look at it, Bradford gives the Eagles a better shot to win than Sanchez does. So, in that sense, it was good that we kept Bradford, because if we didn't have Bradford here, say that, Bradford went inside somewhere else, then we would be stuck with Sanchez or, maybe even Chase Daniel. We don't even know. It would be a really bad option. And then the Eagles would have to essentially win all their games with defense. But, now with Bradford at quarterback, the Eagles, with how bad the NFC East is, by keeping Bradford, at least the Eagles give themselves a shot to win the NFC East, since it is so bad. So I mean, in that sense, it's good, but really, it's still going to come down to this defense and how they play under Schwartz. I mean, we're all assuming that they're going to be a great defense under Schwartz, but if they end up being an average defense, then this is where this thing could kind of fall apart a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bradford's gonna thrive under Doug Peterson's offense. I think that's one of the reasons, one of the endorsements to bringing him here is Doug Peterson himself. Obviously, it's probably told Bradford, his skill set goes right along with the things he wants to do on offense. And like Adrian said, with a great defense, I think Jim Schwartz can get us there. You don't need necessarily to ask that much out of your quarterback. You saw Peyton Manning win the Super Bowl this year when he was horrible, threw for 140 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. So I think Bradford will be fine, and will be able to still run a great offense, and Peterson will be able to use his skill set to his best benefit, put him in the right position to win. And you saw the success he had last year, and that was under, Chip's offense, calling just like variations of like 5 different plays, and where Peterson's going to have a much more methodical offense, a lot more plays in the book, and hopefully he utilizes his skills the best way as possible.
Yeah, well, the thing for me was, I actually think he's a better fit for Chip's offense. It's a little bit more quarterback friendly, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, the thing that works with him with Doug Peterson is how conservative he is, and obviously a lot of people on Twitter, they like calling him check down Sammy, and it works on third down if you want to pick up 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s. That's how you move the stick. So in that sense, Bradford is a really good fit. I'm curious to see how he does fit with the offense if they do take some shots down the field. Curious how they do that, how that's going to get incorporated, because, that was a knock on Sammy last year was, they didn't really take a lot of shots because of the wide receivers, but, Doug's known to be a little bit more conservative than Chip, so we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's going to be a huge factor here. I mean, poor Bradford. This guy always is learning a new damn system. He's probably pissed off at this point. I mean, the guy's like on his 4th or 5th system already, so he's got to. I mean, this is going to be totally different than what Chip Kelly ran. This is going to be more West Coast. He's going to be under center. He's most likely, going to be making audibles at the line of scrimmage. So, this is a totally different type of offense that we're going to see, this year with the Eagles and Bradford. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. What you hope with Bradford is that he can be better than what he was last year. I think that's what the Eagles are kind of banking on a little bit, because if they can get a little bit of improvement, if they can maybe get him between that average and good stage, then you're possibly looking at 10 or 11 wins. But the way I look at it right now, with Bradford and the defense under Schwartz, I think you're looking at 8 to 10 wins, which could still win you the NFC East.
Yeah, I mean, I think he played a variation of the West Coast offense under Pat Shurmur as a first year as a rookie. But it is a shame he's had literally like 5 or 6 different offensive coordinators in just 6 years now. He's also got, maybe it'll make DeMarco Murray a little happier that his old roommate's back with him now. He won't have any of that unhappy DeMarco shit now. But it's, like Mike said, Sammy will be able to use audible as a line of scrimmage and do things more of a conventional quarterback does. Hopefully get the running game going. Who knows what Doug Peterson's going to bring on? Maybe move Jordan Matthews, outside a little more. I think he'll be just fine, and we'll just see what happens. I'm excited because it's just, at least we got that out of the way. We know we have someone at quarterback that's played ball before in the league, not a Chase Daniel, not a rookie, so we're definitely in a better position, and with Sam at quarterback to win more games, and especially in a mediocre division, I can totally see us winning the NFC East.
That's the one thing I will give him for Doug's offense. I like the fact that he's going to get more freedom at the line of scrimmage because he didn't get Eddie under Chip. Chip's such an authoritative figure and a goddamn dictator. He wasn't going to give him any freedom. So there's that. All right, I wanted to move on to some misconceptions from the Eagles fan base. I really wanted to delve into some things. We're going to talk about the drops. We're going to talk about the last 7 games. We're going to talk about all that stuff, because the pro-Bradford people are like, well, they look at all the drops, and, last 7 games, he was great, and all that stuff. All right, so let's debunk some myths. Let's do it. All right, so here are the stats with Bradford last year. According to Pro Football Focus, Bradford dealt with the highest percentage of drops in the NFL, ridiculous 7.9%. 42 drops in 532 pass attempts. And obviously, like I said, those drops are the #1 case made by Bradford supporters. But just how much was he affected by them? Because the average number of drops in the NFL is just 30. So that's really only a 12 reception difference. So in the whole scheme of things, it's not really that much. So for you stat lovers, Bradford still wouldn't have reached 4,000 yards. And with those 12 extra receptions, let's give him, 2 touchdowns? Is that fair? 2 touchdowns? So I do remember, too, 2 of those drops led to interceptions. So we could tack away 2 interceptions as well. So if you add everything together, Sleevy Wonder had an average, if he had an average receiving core, he would have been close to about 3,900 yards. You would have had 21 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So there you go. It really isn't that much of a difference.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really not. He's, still an average quarterback if you put in those, the drops. So the drops really didn't make a difference. And the other thing, you look at his best 7-game stretch up against the other NFL quarterbacks and their best 7-game stretches last year. And Bradford, he really didn't rank that well. Kind of ranked down towards the bottom half among those quarterbacks. And, the top guys, I mean, their quarterback ratings were, well in the 100s. And, Bradford's quarterback rating wasn't even at 100. So, that's the thing with Bradford. I mean, you hope that, these guys can catch some more balls next year. But I think what we're really going to see is, this Eagles team is going to be going back to power football. We're really going to become a running team again. And because, I mean, Bradford doesn't have that many options to, throw the ball to. So you're really going to see, a lot of the running game. And you're going to see Bradford's attempts go way down. I mean, his arm is going to be fresh because his attempted passes are going to be way down there.
You see, the good thing with Sammy, one of his skill sets is he can fit the ball in pretty tight windows. He's got an accurate arm. And, he can get rid of the ball quick if he has to. He did that a lot under Chip. But, overall, I think obviously getting rid of the drops will help. The stats would have went up a little bit more. But, it's a solid season. Not great, but good. One thing I want to say is this is the first time in how many years and Sammy is coming in an off-season completely healthy. And, we had the whole beginning of last year, he didn't look the same in the first 8 games because he's coming off back-to-back ACLs. And this is the first time in over 3 years that Bradford's coming in a fully healthy offseason. And back in 2012, maybe 2013, before he went down, he was on pace in the first handful of games. He was going at a record pace. He had a good, I think, something around, I don't know the exact number, but 12-2 interception ratio, something like that. He started off that season hot. We've seen he's got potential. This is kind of a prove-it deal, and because we still don't know after that 1 year with Chip whether Sam is our future franchise quarterback. What if he has it's possible he has a great year. And then we'll go from there. Anything can happen. So, we'll see. I just wanted to bring up that healthy offseason thing. I think, he might have one of his best. He could have one of his best years, you could say, as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, and we'll get into that later because we're going to make a little comparison with Carson Palmer. Now, going back to the drops thing real quick, we just need to be a little bit more realistic with it. It's an excuse. It really is. And it's not something I use when I evaluate him. I don't care about the drops. I don't care about the O-line play. Obviously, it matters in terms of helping him and the team win games, but in terms of evaluation, I look at the accuracy, the ball placement, the decision-making, the leadership, all that stuff. When a receiver drops the ball, but the ball placement is superb, that doesn't get a minus from me. It gets a plus. So, that's kind of the way I look at it. His decision-making, the leadership definitely improved as the year went on. The decision-making, didn't throw as many red zone interceptions, obviously. So there's that. What do you guys think about, what I just stated there, in terms of evaluating? What do you guys look at with him?
Yeah, well, it seems like, Bradford became a big fan of, the locker room, going in the shower, bringing the guys together. So that was definitely his thing, and that's how he took leadership. A little bit of an odd spot to, take a leadership role, but it seemed like the way that the Eagles players were talking, it seemed like the second half of the year, Bradford really seemed to take on that leadership role, and that's kind of why the guys on the team wanted the Eagles to keep Bradford. So obviously, the quarterback and being a leader is a huge thing in the NFL. So Bradford does have that going for him. So that's definitely a positive when you look at the Bradford situation.
Yeah, I would agree with you guys. Beyond the stats and the skill set, obviously look at the personality of him as a leader, and now he's going to be in total command of the huddle. And I think this is going to help out many aspects of our offense. Sam will get more freedom of the offense. He won't be a robot out there performing Chip system. He'll be able to be more of a force in the huddle, talk to the guys, I saw a matchup over here, I want you to do this to Aguilar or to Jordan. And also with the slower methodical offense, we hope it helps someone like Jason Peters, who was kind of banged up all year last year and running around at such a tempo that Chip played at. You could argue that this tempo will help out, certain players in the offensive line. And, it's one thing Sam is not worried about is money, because if he plays out these 2 years under $36 million contract with the Eagles, he would have made $114 million in 7 years in the league with a 25-37 record. So one thing that we don't have to worry about, Sam worried about, is money, because I think he's well off.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, what a lucky bastard. What a lucky bastard. Fuck Howie. It's Howie's fault. Now, The other argument that pro Bradford people like to make is his performance over the last 7 games. Obviously, with his ACL tear, we at the Bitterbirds, we expected a slow start. And obviously, Sam was a lot better over those last 7 games. But let's take a look at how good he really was. So let's get into it. So he had 1,959 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Quarterback rating of 97.0. It's good. It's good. I'll give it to you. It was good. But when you compare that to, say, just 2 examples, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, those 2 guys blew him out of the water. So Cousins, you look at him, 1,888 yards, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, quarterback rating of 120.1. Russell Wilson, 1,906 yards, 20 touchdowns, 1 interception. That quarterback rating was a whopping 132.8. So, again, while not much of a stat guy, you can see what the point is there. His last 7 games were good. They weren't great. They were just good. And too many Eagles fans thought it was great.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's where, people really hype Bradford up, is because everyone likes to look at that the final 7-game stretch there with him. And, it's interesting going back and looking at the numbers because, I thought his numbers were better, but they really weren't. When you compare him to the other quarterbacks like you were talking about, like Wilson and Cousins, Bradford was just good. I mean, he wasn't anything exceptional. And I guess really the Eagles needed him to be in the Wilson and Cousins category in order to, win the NFC East. But, the big games there for Bradford late in the season, the home game against the Cardinals, home game against the Redskins, and, really those games, Bradford was just average, and he didn't get the job done. And, I guess those are the types of reasons, I think, when the Eagles went back and evaluated him, and they said, look, we really can't afford to give you a long-term deal at this point because if you do that, then you're really saying he's a franchise quarterback, and a franchise quarterback has to play really good in critical games.
Yeah, going back to what I was saying before, I mean, you don't really know. It's still kind of in improve-it mode. I mean, you still really don't know what you have with Sam. That's why, we gave him a short deal. I know that list you were looking at, Adrian, and, Russell obviously had the top of 7-game stretches, and I remember seeing who was at the very bottom of that best of 7-game stretches. It was a former Eagle named Nick Foles, and he didn't have a good year at all last year. I think he might have only played the 7 games before getting benched. But, I think, Sam, he's not great. He's good, but, he has potential to, I think, to be hopefully better than we saw. We need him to be a little better than what we saw last year. Like I said, we'll be running the ball more, and we won't have to ask too much out of our passing game unless we go down big. But the defense is definitely a big help, and it'll take pressure off the offense if the defense is studly like we think Jim Schwartz will make it.
Yeah, the Redskins game was the one that really, really rubbed me the wrong way. That was the one where I went from pro Bradford to just in the middle. I still haven't joined the dark side yet, but I'm in the middle. I'm right there. I can't figure out whether I want to join the dark side or be on the good side of the force. I can't figure it out. May the Schwartz be with us. But just talking about that Redskins game, he missed a lot of throws. And one of my critiques of him is his inability to show up in big games. I saw it in college. National championship game came up small. First year, with the Rams against the Seahawks, Week 17 game, do or die for the NFC West, came up small. Redskins game came up small. That freaking throw to Zach Ertz, I can't get it out of my mind. And then the pro Bradford people just pissed me off with that because, Bradford got hit on the play. Well, God damn it, if he got hit on the play, the ball would have been underthrown. That ball was thrown 20 yards over Zach's head. It's a terrible excuse.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the thing there with Bradford in that Redskins game was, well, the Eagles were actually they were still in the game at halftime because Cousins had that mind fart there at the end of the first half, but and after the second half, the Eagles just really didn't show up, and Bradford wasn't that good at all, and they really needed him to come out in the second half and rally the troops, and they weren't able to do it. So you just gotta hope that going forward that Bradford can come up clutch in big games, but unfortunately, I don't think that we're going to be playing in many big games with Bradford. We might not even play any big games with him. Probably not even play a playoff game with them, and unless they go to the playoffs next year. But the way the deal is structured, it really looks like this is a 1-year deal with Bradford, unless he really comes out and it shines next season.
Yeah, obviously we hope he has some big games. There's a first time for anything. He's got to win one of them at some point, right? Oh, man. Well, then again, Archie Manning never did. But his team stunk in the 70s, and those Saints were awful. Anyway, they're about taking that hit and overthrowing Ertz, that your favorite play, Adrian. There were, I can't think of specific throws, but there were plenty of throws in the season where I noted it and just said, hey, Sam took a pretty big hit there and still delivered the ball, and he got up. We talk all this fragile Sammy thing. He took some licks. That offensive line was pretty banged up. He took some licks and still got up, still delivered the ball in a tight window, and, dealt with, several drops and so on and so forth. But he was able to, he can't be perfect, can't make every single throw, although that one big throw could have changed that whole game. But, I think he got I noticed that he still delivered the ball and took it, so it's not like he can't do it. It's just obviously you want him. Of course, that happened to be that throw in that game with that much on the line. Yeah, it's just, that sucks.
Well, the reason why he's ranked 16th in my quarterback rankings, the reason why he's average is because for every one of those Zach Ertz overthrows, he has the one that, he takes the hit in the end zone against the Cardinals, 3rd and 15, and he delivers a deep out right on the money. So he has it in him. But then you have the Ertz shit, too. So he's average.
Yep, he's average, and that's why the whole contract negotiations with him was so hard, because he is that average quarterback. But the problem with today's NFL is that there's not many great quarterbacks. You have a few top-notch guys, and after that you have a bunch of good to average quarterbacks. And with there not being that many top-notch guys, these average quarterbacks are going to get their money. So that's why, Bradford got all the guaranteed money in his deal.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It is a sad but true reality of quarterback position. You got guys like Alex Smith, Jay Cutler making all similar kind of money, and Tony Romo that Sam's making. A bunch of great, the great ones, and then a bunch of mediocre or average to slightly above average. So that's the price of the going rate for a starting quarterback in the NFL, unless you just plug a rookie right in or happen to get lucky with a backup. And we paid the price. I think we made out at least for this year, and then we'll see how he does, and then next year, 2017 will be another story to see what we do as far as the money goes. But right now, I think overall it's a good deal, and it'll give us flexibility we need to do what we need to the rest of the offseason draft.
Yeah. What my favorite tweets from Eagles fans are the vines of Bradford making a throw. Every quarterback can make a throw, but some don't have enough dimes to buy that bag of Doritos in the snack machine. So that's just the way it is, So he's just average. There's a ceiling that he can be like Carson Palmer. That's the ceiling for him. but I don't think he's going to reach top 10. I don't think he's going to make it there. And that's where we're going to move to Carson Palmer and talk about him. Because his first year with the Cardinals, the offensive line was poor, the receivers were kind of poor. He had 24 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. Now, obviously, this past year, Carson Palmer was unbelievable. 4,671 yards, 35 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, quarterback rating of 104.6. Last year, he got off to a great start before tearing his ACL. So, what are your guys' thoughts on Bradford potentially reaching that Palmer ceiling?
Yeah, well, in order for Bradford to get there, he's going to need to get some weapons. Because, Carson Palmer he had a ton of weapons on offense, this past season. So, Bradford's just never had the offensive firepower, unfortunately. And you look at this 2-year deal with the Eagles, and, really, unfortunately, the Eagles, they don't have the receivers right now to provide that firepower like Palmer had this season with the Cardinals.
Well, if Chip would have drafted another wide receiver besides Josh Huff a couple of years ago, there was somebody available.
Stupid fucking Josh Huff bullshit.
There was somebody else available that was on the Cardinals that helped Carson Palmer, and that's John Brown. He's a great speedster. I wish we had him. Obviously more weapons would help Sam reach that ceiling, but I don't think 35. That's a stretch. I'd put his ceiling at 25 with the amount that he's gonna probably throw this year with Doug's offense. I think Doug's gonna have a more balanced offense. So. I think Sam will protect the ball, and I think we're going to address the offensive line. And like I mentioned earlier, the slower tempo might help out an aging Jason Peters with having those nagging injuries. Maybe it'll be fresher throughout the year. I put Sam's ceiling like a good season from Sam would be pushing 4,000 yards again. That would be great. With 25 and say 10 to 12 picks.
Yeah, the reason why the comparison is fair is because, both quarterbacks have an injury history, and, just like the Cardinals back in 2013, you had a bad offensive line, and you didn't have weapons yet. And over the last couple of years, they've added weapons. They got John Brown. Obviously they've always had Larry Fitzgerald. Michael Floyd came into his own. And then even on the offensive line, they added Jared Valdir last year as a tackle, and then you added Mike Iupati this past season. So you build the offensive line, lines looks a little better, and that's helped Carson Palmer tremendously. I believe I have Palmer either ranked 8th or 9th in my quarterback ranking. So, the ceiling, I don't think he's ever going to be top 10, but I think he can be in like the 12 to 15 range. That's kind of what I'm thinking with Bradford. So there you go. All right, moving on. Next topic. I want to delve a little bit further into this contract and the cap hit thing. So, we mentioned it earlier near the start of the show. The cap hit for this season is $12.5 million. The estimated cap space for this offseason is $18.6 million. So you have some money to spend in free agency. Now the downside is the $23.5 million cap hit for next year, and it's $9.5 million, the dead cap if you cut them. So I don't like that. But we'll delve into this further. What do you guys think of this?
Well, yeah, pretty much we're screwed. That's what it comes down to. I guess if there would kind of be a best case scenario there, I guess one of them would be where you would be able, say that they would, for some reason, they would be able to get Wentz or Goff in this draft, and then you could really, develop him, and then assuming that they would be able to take over for Bradford, you would just have to, take that, the $9.5 million cap hit by releasing Bradford, but at least you would know that you have your franchise quarterback intact. And then the other best case scenario would be, Bradford just really coming out this year and having an outstanding year and, being one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, which would, really be a stretch. But if you would do that, then that would be a situation where you could you give him another contract extension and sign him for another 3 or 4 years, and then you could spread that money out some. But really, what it comes down to is there's no way that the Eagles are going to be able to afford a $23.5 million cap hit in 2017. So something is going to happen prior to that.
Yeah, Mike pretty much spelled it all out. I mean, the only silver lining I would say is if we did cut him before whatever it is, June 1st of 2017, this year's number is fine, but we're going to talk about 2017 number now. Then you wouldn't have to pay the 23. Yeah, it would be $10 million of like dead money, but you'd save that 14, and still cap seems to go up every year now, the overall cap limit. So, that's your silver lining. You have a little more money to play with, but you'd be without Sam Bradford if you're cutting him. And then the other situation is if, he has a great year this year, then, negotiate for an extension and, you feel comfortable, okay, Sam proved himself, he's still only 28, we will sign him long term for like a 4-year deal and spread it out, like Mike said. So yeah, it's kind of worrisome when it comes to 2017, but we're living in the moment now. We're in this off season. We still got to think about the future, but at least it gives us some flexibility this year. And I would like us to maybe trade back in the first round, get another second-round pick, address the offensive line and those needs, and maybe get a second or third-round quarterback, maybe one of our third-round picks used for a quarterback, whoever that may be, as a project, somebody to groom. We don't need them necessarily step in right now, and maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, he could be our guy. I mean, it just gives us another option.
I hate everything about the second year of that deal. So fuck you, Howie. You're a piece of shit.
You had to find a way to get a fuck you, Howie, in there.
I had to.
Yeah. It is kind of a ridiculous second year. Something's gonna give, like Mike said. Something's gonna happen. We're not paying $23.5 to him.
Well, here's the thing, though. All right, so $23.5 million. Now, if he stinks this year, you got to pay $9.5 million to cut him, which you could use for either 2 players or a stud guy. The second best safety in the league is getting like $9 to $10 million. That's how much you'd have to give up to cut Sam Bradford, which is just preposterous. Now, here's where the $23.5 million comes into play, because Tom Condon gets the most for his players. So if you want to restructure the deal, if he does do well this season, and he can use that as leverage. So he's going to milk every penny from the Eagles for his client. So fuck you, Howie. You're a piece of shit.
Yeah, well, Bradford and his agent did a nice job of negotiating this contract. And like I was saying before, I think, the big thing with the guaranteed money was that I'm imagining that Bradford was looking at getting a 4-year contract, and the Eagles said, we only want to give you a 2-year contract. So then Bradford countered back and said, look, then you're going to give me a ton of guaranteed money. And that's what Bradford got. He got a ton of guaranteed money, and he made sure that he got most of that guaranteed money in his first season. So, people say the deal works out for both sides, and it does in a way, and it doesn't in another way. I mean, it works out for both sides because Bradford's happy, and then the Eagles are also happy because they were able to only make it a 2-year deal. But then it doesn't work out when you look at the 2017 figures, and the cap hit is just ginormous. And then any time you start talking about releasing a guy and you have to take a cap hit of over $5 million, that's not a good thing. It's a lot of money. So talking about a $9.5 million cap hit to release him, it's a ton of money. but it might be a situation where they have to do that because you can't take the $23.5 million hit.
Well, let's be honest here. Howie is a cap genius, so he has something up his sleeve. Something's got to give with this second year.
That's the one thing he can do. He can work the cap. He's a fucking math geek.
Right. So I think either, like, there's some fine print that we're not
defend him. It was a terrible deal.
that we're not seeing, and it's not just a straight up 23.5. It can't be. There's more to it. I think more might come out soon, but like from what we're reading now, yeah, it looks pretty bad. I don't know. We'll see.
$3.5 million for the second year. It's $3.5 million more than franchise tag. Fucking fuck. Whatever.
Howie has a card up his sleeve, I think.
There's no card up his sleeve. He's an idiot. He's a noodle. Terrible. He's awful. He's the worst GM in the league.
And he's not even technically the GM.
He's not even. Yeah, he's whatever the hell he is. I don't know.
Executive Vice President of Personnel or something. Who knows?
Well, he's cocksucker. That's what he is.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I wanted to say too is clearly the market for Bradford was slim because the fact that he would take this 2-year deal, not even test free agency, that kind of says everything you need to know. Reportedly, the Texans weren't interested in him, which kind of surprised me a little bit. So there wasn't a market for him. The rest of the NFL isn't too high on him. So 2 years, $18 million a season, and fuck Howie and that 23.5. Fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, the 2017, that's tough. That's really tough to take, but I mean, we really don't have that many options.
Yeah, when you look at the average per year, if he gets the whole 2 years, it's 18 a year. That was kind of what we were saying, the max we would give him. So realistically, it's what we kind of expected, and the fact that it's just a 2-year deal is a win for the Eagles because it doesn't lock us up long term, and it also gives us the flexibility with not much of a cap hit this year, and we still got a whole off season in front of us.
Yeah, and I believe if they're able to trade him next year, it's a cap hit of $4 million, I believe. But no one's going to want to trade for him with that $23.5 million hit. So, again, Howie Roseman, you're a piece of shit. All right. All right, so to close this show, well, we're 42 minutes in, so we'll quickly talk about the Combine. We'll do a free agency preview next week. We'll kind of wait till next week to do that. So we'll do that. So Combine. We'll talk about offensive line because that's something we really need, and that's basically it, I guess. So, yeah, because quarterback, we may not need it now. But, what were your guys' thoughts on the Combine? Who were some guys that stood out to you guys?
Yeah, well, I mean, the one guy that you really liked, Adrian, Jason Spriggs from Indiana. I mean, you called it with that guy. He really stood out big time. He was one of those combine workout warriors, so he impressed. So he definitely improved his draft stock, and now he's looking like a guy that's probably going to be late first round and then early into the second round. So that's a situation the Eagles could pick him up, or a guy like Cody Whitehair if they were able to trade back in the first round and get that second round pick back. So those would be two guys that the Eagles would look at if they did a situation like that. And if the Eagles did, move back there in the first round, looking at a first-round pick along the offensive line, you would hope that a guy like Jack Conklin or Taylor Decker would still be there if you trade back.
One of the stories of the Combine is Mr. Chris Jones, the defensive tackle from Mississippi State. He put he went balls to the wall on that 40-yard dash time. It's just, he had a couple tennis balls rolling around coming out of his pants there. But I think the best move for, obviously we're talking about the offensive line, the best move for the Eagles would be to trade back a little bit, and I think it would be a little bit of a reach for Conklin or Decker at 13. Obviously, if Stanley could fall there, that'd be awesome. I don't think either Wentz or Goff will be there, so I don't want to reach for Lynch. And this is where we talk about either best player available, whether it's Laquan Treadwell or a stud defensive lineman that dropped a few picks and was projected top 10 maybe, or and if you don't take best player available, and I'd like to trade back and accumulate draft picks, hopefully a second rounder like we gave up last year, and in the late first round you see the projections going. Spriggs out of Indiana and Whitehair at guard are two great names that I think would have good value in say late 20s something overall pick.
Yeah, trading back is definitely a possibility. And just to give you guys my thoughts on the offensive line, Jason Spriggs is stud buffing. I would take him over Taylor Decker. I'd take him over Conklin. He's my third best tackle in the draft right now. The other guy, I like Whitehair too. I would actually probably take Whitehair over Conklin and Decker as well. Conklin is a guy who I think is just going to be solid. He's just okay. He's going to be like an average lineman. Decker, I'm not really too thrilled about. He's okay, but I thought he really struggled in what they call it. I guess they call it like the rabbit drill, the mirror drill, where you have a player that kind of runs around and the offensive lineman kind of has to go back and forth and mirror the player. And I didn't think Decker looked very good at that. I'll throw you guys some names of some offensive linemen that I thought looked pretty good. When I look at the combine, I look for fluidness, smoothness, guys that can make those drills look kind of easy. You look for the balance and in the hips and all that stuff. The one guy that really stood out, he's projected to go in the later rounds. I thought Fawn Cooper of Ole Miss, he's a sleeper of mine. So watch out for him. Later rounds, I'd love to get him. You got Willie Beavers of Western Michigan, Caleb Benenoch of UCLA, Christian Westerman of Arizona State, Craig Dahl of Washington State. I thought these guys were, solid, workout guys. I'm going to have to check out the tape to see, if it translates, but I thought they looked pretty good. Going on to another position we need, it's wide receiver. Just to throw, two names out there. I really liked Tajay Sharp out of UMass. I thought he looked really good. I remember a game he had against Temple earlier this season. I'm not sure where he's projected to go, but he ran like 4.3 something, I believe, and he made some fabulous catches. Coming with the quarterbacks, he did some toe tapping. He made some great over-the-shoulder catches. I thought he looked pretty good. And the other one I really liked was Leonte Carew from Rutgers. So those are two names to watch out for because obviously we need a wide receiver, and we may not get one in the first. We may not go first round wide receiver, and who knows what's going to happen with free agency. We may not have enough money to go get a stud, and the class isn't that great now that Alshon Jeffrey got franchise tagged. So those were some of my thoughts. And the other name, Sheldon Rankins. If we're picking at 13 and he's still there, I would heavily consider taking him because Benny Logan's a free agent at the end of the year, and I think Sheldon Rankins is a lot like Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is a stud muffin, and I would love to pair him up with Fletcher Cox.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the draft and how everything falls. But the way it's looking is Eagles are probably going to have to, those early rounds are really going to have to get those offensive linemen, and then after that, the later rounds, maybe they try to add a running back, add a wide receiver. Obviously, another position in need that the Eagles are going to be looking at. Besides the offensive line and quarterback, they're going to be looking at the defensive back. So that's another area to watch out for there. Maybe third or fourth round, I would imagine the Eagles would try to go for a defensive back. So the one thing that I'm really going to be interested to see is how this whole quarterback situation plays out with Wentz and Goff, because I really want to see where they go, because at this point, I'm really leaning towards Wentz being the top guy off the board. I think that he's got all the potential, and he's got the highest ceiling, I would say, to really take the number 2 pick there with the Browns. We'll see what happens with him, but the situation that is looking slim at this point, but we could get into is if say Wentz would be available to the Eagles at 13, with Bradford on a 2-year deal. If we were able to get Wentz, I would be doing jumping jacks because that would be absolutely ideal. And if that happens, then everything would have worked out perfectly for the Eagles. But unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen. They're going to have to look for a quarterback in probably the 3rd or 4th round, and hopefully that they develop into someone, maybe a guy like Dak Prescott. But I'm not really too high on the quarterbacks after Wentz and Goff, and I don't want Lynch. So,
this NFL draft overall is not a sexy offensive draft. It's just not. I think we're gonna go offensive line and then focus on defense. Maybe get a mid-round quarterback to develop, but we could also wait till next year now with this, having Sammy locked up, and who knows what we do with Sanchez. I kind of think that we haven't cut him already. We might be keeping him around for an insurance policy, even though it'll save $3.5 million to cut him. I'm getting the feeling that Sanchez is going to stick around. I don't know.
He's gone.
Yeah, hopefully
he would do that.
We'll see. But a couple guys, we talked about the secondary a little bit. We mentioned this guy in a previous show, but Jeremy Cash out of Duke is a solid-looking safety. He's being compared to a little bit like T.J. Ward, and that'd be a great addition in maybe after the 1st round. I don't know if he's projected to go 3rd, maybe. And then you look at wide receivers. If Laquan Treadwell's there, 13, I really consider getting him as the best player available, or maybe in a later round, someone like Will Fuller. He's got some burner speed from Notre Dame, and he hurt Temple a lot in that Notre Dame Temple game. But Will Fuller is another guy who in the wide receiver position that's a good prospect, I think.
Yeah, just to run down some more names, some quarterbacks that I thought were better than expected at their combines. I thought Brandon Allen had a good combine from Arkansas, quarterback. Another quarterback that was better than I thought was Driscoll from Louisiana Tech, the Florida transfer. I thought he was okay. I mean, I wouldn't draft any of these guys, though. And the other one was, I thought Brissett of NC State looked pretty good, too. Christian Hackenberg had a chance to really, kind of, because, the offensive line was terrible this year at Penn State, and he had a chance to kind of rectify himself, and I didn't think he was that good. Some other names to throw out there. I haven't finished watching all the combine stuff yet. I'm very meticulous. I take notes, all that stuff. I haven't finished the defensive backs yet, but I did watch the first wave, and I thought William Jackson from Houston, that's the guy that's really shining from that first wave there. Vernon Hargraves is obviously a great name. He's going to go top 10, though. But a guy that, a sleeper is William Jackson of Houston. I really like him.
Yeah, you mentioned Hackenberg, and, well, let's just say this. If the Eagles decide to draft Hackenberg in the middle rounds, I will not be very happy. That would probably be one of the worst-case scenarios for the Eagles. I would almost take any other quarterback in this draft class over Hackenberg. I just think that would be a really bad decision. I am not a Hackenberg fan. I don't even think he's draftable. He's horrible. But you never know with the Eagles. But that's the one guy that at the quarterback position that I would totally avoid.
I think Bill O'Brien's gonna reach for him. I think he's just gonna grab him. I just have a feeling that O'Brien from Houston's going to pick up Hackenberg. But, I mean, who knows? Yeah, I definitely don't want him on the Eagles. But, I I don't study that much of the mid-round prospects or anything like that. I don't really go much beyond the first round until like just before the draft. But I just hope that we can. I think it's a pretty gimme idea. That I think it's a good idea to trade back in the first round, and I think that's our best case scenario to get more picks. We got 2 third-rounders, 5th-rounders, and 7th-rounders, a 4th, a 6th, and a 1st. So, we got 9 picks going into the draft, and I think we have a good chance to utilize them and get some good players. Hopefully, Howie doesn't fuck this one up.
No, I'm 100% in agreement with you, depending on who's available. I mean, like I said, if Sheldon Rankins is there, I'm drafting him. So, you don't always necessarily have to take what you need. It's you take the best player available, because at 13, Rankings is obviously a lot higher on the draft board than, say, a Conklin, a Spriggs, or a Decker or whatever. So, you're looking at a difference of like maybe 10 to 15 players there, because those offensive linemen behind Tunsil and Stanley, those are like late first-round grades in my opinion. And at 13, you're really reaching for one of those guys. But obviously, if you trade back, I mean, and gain a second-round pick or something, obviously it works out to your advantage. Just 2 more names to throw out there, just from what I remember off the top of my head, of other defensive tackles that look pretty good. Sheldon Day he had himself a day. Notre Dame defensive tackle. He killed it against Temple, I remember. But this guy's, very athletic for a man his size. I thought Andrew Billings of Baylor, he's like another big behemoth of a man, and just the athleticism from a 300-pounder, extraordinary. Again, a guy like Billings, I'm gonna have to watch the tape to see if it translates from the workout onto the game tape, because obviously tape is greater than the workouts. So you use the workouts to see if it translates. That's the way I always look at it.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad that the combine is over with, because the combine, they get so hyped up. All these guys, they go out there. I mean, it's just really warming up, running some drills, and people go nuts over the stats that they put up, the numbers they put up, how high they can jump, how far they can jump. If a guy's balls are falling out. So I mean, they look at everything with this combine. So I'm just glad it's over with. Now we can get to the real stuff. These guys can get drafted, and then we can see how they translate to the NFL, because you really don't know until they take the field in an NFL game.
Yeah, Mike's exactly right with that. And Adrian mentioned some of the defensive linemen. I mean, that's definitely an option. If one of those guys are available at the right value in the draft, it's definitely an option, because Benny Logan's unrestricted free agent after next year, and he's been a solid player for us, and he's going to demand some money, and not even close to Fletcher Cox money, but we still have to sign. But he's going to demand money, and we don't know what the cap situation is going to be like now in 2017. So obviously those are some guys the Eagles should look at. I think we're going to look at a lot of defense and get a lot of offensive linemen. Just my opinion.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. Final thoughts real quickly, and let's get out of here.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some people that are still giving Roseman a little bit too much credit to my liking. I'm not gonna be happy with this guy until he comes up with a good free agency and one hell of a draft. I mean, this signing our own guys to contracts, that's the easy part. I mean, the toughest part and how you really have to build your team is through the draft. That's where it matters. So. Free agency is important, but like we've seen, you can't just add a bunch of guys in free agency and expect to be good. You really need to draft well. So, I mean, for the future of the Eagles, I mean, this draft it's so important for this team. We can't afford to miss on an early round pick. We pretty much, we need one of these. Really, we need a 2012 draft, or we hit on our first 3 or 4 picks. That's what we need, honestly. So until Roseman does that, I'm not really going to give him much credit because I know that he can handle the salary cap, but how he handles this draft and free agency is key.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I liked the deal that we got him for at least, under control for this year. And I think Howie so far, keeping his own guys and, yeah, he might be overpaying them for potential, but, it's the moves he made. You just got to hope they work out. We like all the guys he signed. We like them all. We're happy they're on the Eagles. It was Howie that signed them for all this money, but they could earn that up to that potential. We know all the players can, like Lane and Zach and Vinny, and the list goes on. Sam. But you're right. The draft and free agency is huge, especially the draft, and because you can really just miss on a bunch of prospects, and it can set you back. You set your whole franchise back a year or two. We've seen that in previous drafts, like in 2011. And we've seen good drafts like in 2012, and then you definitely can't finish Howie's grade for the offseason until after free agency and the draft. I'm really excited for free agency to start next week, and we'll see what he does. We have some room to play with, money, around $18.5 million of salary cap space. So, we'll see. I'm hoping. I think it's off to a good start, but I'm hoping it can end like that too. And we give Howie. Hopefully, Howie will get a better grade than Adrian will give him. I'll give him a better grade than Adrian.
Oh, you're absolutely going to give him a better grade. Because, hold on. You know how much credit I give Howie Roseman so far? Hold on. He gets 0 credit. None.
Took you that long? Took you that long to draw a circle?
No.
That took you a while.
He gets the 0. Look, all right, I refuse to be fooled, okay? We got fooled by the Dream Team in 2012. We got fooled by Chip Kelly last year, all right? I am not sipping any Kool-Aid yet. I'm not doing it.
All right, that's a valid point. I agree.
I'm not doing it. All right, so Lane
I'm not
Johnson.
telling you to sip the Kool-Aid yet. Let's just watch and see what happens.
Well, we have to wait until next year to even know how this offseason went. So, people are like jumping to conclusions. All right, there's a lot of risk reward with these extensions. Vinny Curry's been a bench player his whole career. I love Vinny Curry, all right? He's going to pressure the quarterback. He's going to be great on the Jim Schwartz. But he's getting paid like the 11th best defensive end in the league. Lane Johnson is getting top 4 money. I mean, he better get better in pass protection if he wants to take over Jason Peters' spot at left tackle. Zach Ertz is getting paid top 5 money as a tight end. So, it's great that he's locking these guys up, but they're getting slightly overpaid in my opinion. So I refuse to be fooled. I'm not going to do it. If I'll eat a lot of crow, if we turn out and we win a Super Bowl or whatever with Howie Roseman in this organization. But as of right now, I'm just playing it cool. You guys can go. You Eagles fans, you can go. You can suck his dick. I ain't doing it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty hard to, imagine Howie Roseman on the float thinking, stroll down Broad Street, hoisting up a Lombardi trophy. I just don't see it happening. But hey, maybe it'll happen. We'll have Lori's wife, the Asian, she'll be holding up the trophy. Oh man, yeah, that'll be something. But no, yeah, we'll see what Roseman. The one thing I will say though is there's no doubt about it that he's in charge. Everyone knows he's in charge now, so this is all on him. This whole off season, the draft, it's on him. There's no questioning now. Who was a Marcus Smith pick? It finally came out that it was him. We knew that, but there's no questions anymore. This is all on Roseman.
I don't think you'd be able to see Howie on the float. He's so short. You just see an arm coming up from the crowd with the Lombardi Trophy. You're like, oh, who's holding it? Oh, it's just, okay. It must be Howie. Well, yeah, I'm not going to give him. I didn't like what he did in the past either. He's had some horrible off seasons, but he was really. I think he was truly humbled a little bit with this whole Chip Kelly power struggle thing, and he's coming into this offseason with a chip on his shoulder, and I mean he's out to prove himself, and he hasn't done it quite yet. All right, he had these signings, and we got to see what he does in the draft and free agency. He hasn't proved himself yet, but like you said, if he has a great free agency and a great draft, and Adrian comes out of it saying, "Oh, this was a great draft. Wow, I can't believe I'm saying that," then he'll start eating some crow. But until that time, till the end of April, we won't know.
Well, actually, with the draft, we won't know until 2 years from now. So I can bash him for another 2 years if I want to. So that's what I'm going to do. That is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep bashing him until he proves me wrong. Yeah, so, think about it, though. Think about this. We went 7-9, right? That's what we went, 7-9. And we hand out the extensions to core players of a 7-9 team. He's rewarding mediocrity. It's terrible. It's terrible. But, yeah, I'll just give him a little sliver of my cheesecake, all right? I like the extensions because I like the players we're extending, okay? I'll say that. I do think they're being slightly overpaid, but I do like the guys he's extending. I'll just say that. That's the only little positive that you'll get from me, Howie.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up right there.
Yeah, let's end it. We're done. We're like well over an hour now, so the show's way too long. But yeah, fuck Howie. Jeremy maybe semi likes Howie. I don't know. Mike says fuck Howie too. So we're out of here. We're the Bitter Birds. Take it easy. Jeremy Burton, Mike Owens. They say bye as well. So does Calvin the Minion. Later, guys.
Later.
Yeah.